Good morning, everyone. It is 9:01, so we'll go ahead and get started because these sessions fly by. So welcome to our session today, Strategies to Engage Girls of Color in Out-of-School Time Experiences. I'm Gabriela Delgado. I'm with the County Office of Education. I'm actually part of the Expanded Learning and Community Engagement Department. So I'm happy to be seeing all of you, or at least see names. I do see names and I do see faces and some pictures. So welcome, everyone. We're a small group. I do know these sessions are being recorded, so you should have given your permission right as you joined. So if you lose Wi-Fi or you lose the connection for whatever reason, don't feel like you're going to miss out. You can always watch the videos after the conference. So those will be available for everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just so you know, here's kind of where we're going to go today in our quick 50 minutes. We'll do a quick little warm-up activity for all of you. We'll get into a little bit about the why it's important to engage girls of color, specifically when we're looking at STEAM. And then some sample activities you might want to try or do when you get back to your programs and school districts. And then we'll wrap it up. So in 50 minutes, it goes by really quick. So hopefully you're all ready to get going with this. So I always like to let people know who I am so I don't feel like such a stranger. So you've got a couple pictures there in front of you. That's my husband, Jaime, there. We've been married now 7 years. We have a little fur baby, Chiquita. She's a lab pit bull mix who is very affectionate and always wants belly rubs from anybody who will give them to her. I'm the youngest. I've got 3 older sisters. So there was 4 girls in our household growing up. I'm sure my dad always wished he had a boy, but wasn't lucky on that end. I was not born here. I was born right across the border in Tijuana. So those of you who are in San Diego County, you know that's just really, really close for us. I love sushi. I could eat sushi every single day. And I enjoy snowboarding when I have a chance. So that's a little bit about me. So hopefully you don't feel like I'm this stranger. I feel like just saying my name and my title doesn't tell you anything about who I am. And that's not a very warm welcome, I think. So I want to give you the opportunity to do the same. So we're a small enough group. You are welcome to use the chat box, or if you are wanting to take a risk, you can unmute yourself. You can raise your hand and I'll call on you, whatever works for you, or you can use the chat box, but share with us your name, your favorite food, and a random fact about yourself. So you can share just about anything and it'll be pretty random because we don't all know each other. So whatever you're willing to share. And again, you can take a risk. If you want to unmute and do it with a group, you're welcome to do that as well. I leave that up to you, or you can put it all in the chat box, whatever you all prefer. Those of you on the phone, I know it's a little bit difficult sometimes to bring up the chat box. So be patient with yourself. It's still early. So again, just share your name, your favorite food, and a random fact. Is someone willing to unmute?
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
My name is Norma Rodriguez. As I mentioned in the chat, I'm from the Imperial County, close to San Diego. I'm near the border of Mexicali. You were born in Tijuana. I was born in Mexicali. My favorite food, it's carne asada. It has to be carne asada. A random fact about myself, it's that I think I become an addict in buying plants. And also, a random fact is that I have 10 siblings in total, plus me, we're 11.
Wow,
so that's it.
Big family.
Thank you.
Big family. Thanks, Norma, for taking a risk and unmuting. I appreciate that. See, Lina loves pupusas. It's her favorite food. Half Nicaragüense, so she's family from Nicaragua. Thanks for sharing that, Lina. Callie, let's see, favorite food, oh, sorry, the chat's moving. Favorite food is French fries. And maybe we can throw in some carne asada that Norma likes on those fries, right? Those are really good and super healthy. Let's see, April, love to eat nothing but cake. Oh my God, those are delicious. Thai food, great, great. You posted your first TikTok today. Very cool. That's very exciting. Momentous occasion for you there. Connie, favorite food, anything Asian, Thai food, you love sushi, sashimi, oh, you're my kind of person. Random fact, you love anything sci-fi, so books, movies, that's awesome. And then Lauren, you're a cheeseburger and fry kind of person, and you were named after a grocery clerk. If we have time, let's loop back. I'd love to hear the story about the grocery dark name. That's actually a really good activity you can ask students is, do you know why your name was chosen? Is there a meaning behind it? Is there a unique story? Let's see. A lot of people are digging the cheeseburgers. Ricardo, favorite food is pizza, and random fact, you're an only child. So you cannot relate to Norma's stories, I'm sure, of having 10 siblings. So yeah, big difference there, right? Alexis, I hear you with the enchiladas. And you enjoy riding your quad at the desert. Very cool. So you're a little bit of a daredevil there. So very cool. Thanks everyone for checking in. I just like to know a little bit about who's in the room, and that way we don't feel like such strangers. So thanks for doing that with us. We'll go ahead and get started. And I just wanted to start here. So you all picked this session. I know there's other sessions to pick from, but I'm curious, you can put this in the chat box if you want, but what is it that you think is important behind engaging girls of color? Is this something that we're not doing enough of? Is it something that we're not doing well when it comes to STEAM or other topics? What made you pick this particular session? I'm just curious. Connie, you want to go ahead and unmute?
I don't know that it's necessarily anything that's not being done by us. I think that it's a systemic problem. I know from just my own experience as a young Black girl, I had no idea that I could be a marine biologist or a doctor or a scientist or go to MIT, because I did not see people that looked like me in those positions. So I think that exposing young Black girls to the people that are in those industries that look like young girls of color opens up the world to them. So maybe that's the one thing that we have to do more of, is get away from the stereotypical norm within the scientific industry and engineering and math, and seeing the stereotypical white male in those roles, and actually showing us people of color in those roles. And it's even more significant for us to see people of the same sex.
Absolutely. If you all agree with Connie, do a little like snap, 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 so I can see you agree with her, right? Because we're on the same page, Connie. We're going to get into that today. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you unmuting. But that's important, right? I see some of you in the comments we're putting, you're looking for some best practices that maybe we need to be doing a little bit more when it comes to STEAM. Maybe we just need to be more strategic, right, with how we go about doing things, right? I felt like I heard someone else wanting to unmute to share.
I just wanted to share that I'm in the path of becoming a teacher. As an educator, I think we don't do enough to engage our girls. I know that this particular training, it's about girls of color, but I feel like in general, you know, and now I've become more interested in this topic because I do remember that as a child, I don't remember having a teacher telling me, hey, you know what, you can pursue a career in science, any type of field that is related to science. And now I have a daughter, she's 10 years old, and she loves everything that has to do with chemistry. She even says the word, well, Mom, I like science, but it has to be related to chemistry because I like to mix different things. And I feel like as educators, it is very important, essential that we empower and encourage our girls to follow the STEAM career. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Norma, for sharing, because oftentimes we don't even present the idea, right? And so the fact that you're introducing the possibility to someone at a young age, that can change their trajectory, believe it or not. So I just want to share real quickly, we have made some strides. So when we look at overall research and we think, well, how are girls doing when we're comparing just based on gender? Math has gone up, so we're excited about that. But then when we look at peeling back the layers and we say, well, has math gone up for all girls? No, not for girls of color, not at the same rate. So we celebrate, but then we say, oh, there's room for growth there, right? So sometimes in research, a lot of times it's presented with like everything's roses, saying, oh, they're doing great. They're enrolling at college at a faster rate than boys are, or they have a higher graduation rate. But we leave out the the information related to girls of color oftentimes, because we're not faring as well. So sometimes the statistics can be a little misleading. And so that's why I just want to let folks know there are places where we do want to celebrate that as a whole, girls have improved, high school rates have improved. That's great. We should celebrate. I want to be able to celebrate that being the same for girls of color as well. And so we're doing some things, but we're not quite there yet. And then the gap exists in STEM and in STEAM careers. It's a much larger gap for girls of color than it is for our white counterparts. So that's just kind of where we are with things. I just wanted to anchor us there that again, we're making some changes, and I think we're doing some fabulous work. But when you peel back those layers of race and ethnicity, girls of color are still not supported in the same respect. And that's what we're looking at doing. So what can I do to engage them, to hook them from a young age so that I can begin to impact these statistics? Okay, so one way to do that really is with expanded learning, right? Because you are incubators for all of this very neat creativity that happens. So in the chat box, I'm gonna invite you to just complete this sentence. Expanded learning opportunities are a pathway to, and then you fill in the blank. So expanded learning opportunities are a pathway to what? What are they a pathway to? What do they lead to? And thank you, Connie, for your feedback. It can be very scary to deal with all of this, right? So take a minute. If you had to fill in this sentence, you had to fill in the blank. Expanded learning opportunities are a pathway to what? To discovery. I love that. What else? How would you complete that sentence? Expanded learning opportunities are a pathway to what? Lifetime learning. I love that. Thank you, Allison. Connecting to self and family. Ambria, thank you for the lifetime learning. Connie, broader opportunities in learning and career paths. So much can happen in after school and out of school time, right? We are teachers. Maybe those of us in this field were not credentialed, but we are teachers. Every time we are interacting with kids, we are the teacher, we are the counselor. Sometimes we play part social worker, we play part parent. We're all of it, right? In expanded learning. Sometimes all in one day, which is why you probably go home very tired, right? So the reality is expanded learning is a vehicle to let kids be free and to engage them in a way that may not be being done in the classroom setting. Not to say we don't have great teachers who are super engaging, but the learning is different in out of school time. Kids are a little bit more relaxed. That's where we can weave in a lot of the enrichment because it's part of our program design. But as you're creating a pathway to all of these possibilities, right? So, and like Lena's saying, for dreams to come true, right? You can begin to plant these seeds and really cultivate them in after school. So we're really lucky in our particular setting. So just to highlight some of them, it can increase engagement with students. It can increase meaningful participation. Kids can get a sense of belonging because you form a sense of bonding in out of school time, right? It could be endless what can come. So we don't want to limit ourselves or limit girls by any means, right? So we're going to get into a little bit of the practical thing. So we've covered a little bit about it's important. We're not doing so well when it comes to girls of color and in STEAM careers. We know the importance. We know that expanded learning can make a difference. And now what are some practical things? And so I'm just going to highlight a few of these. And I'm just going to encourage you in the chat. Like, for example, the first one says provide leadership opportunities. What's an example you've done in your program that has provided a leadership opportunity for a young person? Put something in the chat box so that we can all learn from each other. I'll give you one example. One of my girl groups a few years ago was with our juvenile court and community schools. These are students who are on probation, have exited the hall. They're a tough crowd. So if you can make it with this crowd of girls and you get their seal of approval, you're usually going to be okay. But I remember having one girl, the very first time I met her, and I know it was to intimidate. She pulls down her lip and she's got a tattoo on the inside in her mouth. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that must hurt. But I try not to show, and I said, oh, thanks for showing me that. And I'm thinking, okay, don't make a face, right? I don't want to make a face, but I'm thinking, oh, she is documented. She's telling me this is who I am, right? And one of the things I noticed with her is she had leadership potential just within her gang. I wanted to show her leadership potential in a positive way. So when we were doing some activities, I remember she pushed back on one saying, well, I know financial literacy. That was the topic we were covering. And I said, well, what do you know about it? Why don't you teach the group? And she said, well, what do you mean me to teach the group? And I said, if you think that this is so easy, how about you do a lesson next week on financial literacy? Because you said you have experience in that. She had done a little certificate course that they offer in juvenile hall for like 6 weeks. And she said, well, you're gonna let me do that? I said, I'll let you do that. And to be fair, I'll pay you in the form of a gift card. Since I can't pay you a wage, I'll give you a $20 gift card to wherever you want if you prep this lesson. That turned her attitude around 360. Because I wasn't kidding. I said, if you want to contribute and you've got something to offer, I just have to create the opportunity. I don't have to be the one talking in group. I don't have to be delivering the lesson. So she came back. It was real funny because she stumbled and she had a hard time, but she got through it. But she came up to me later and said, you know what, Ms. Delgado, she said, I don't think I did a good enough job. She said, can I come back next week and I'll do something else? And I said, oh, well, absolutely. I said, what did you learn? What could you have done differently? So it wasn't so much about her creating a perfect lesson. It was about creating the opportunity for her to do that. So it can be as simple as that. Can you just take a leadership role in introducing a speaker? Can you take a leadership role in, coming up with an activity or doing something out of your comfort zone? You'll notice I always say, take a risk and unmute, because that is a risk for some people sometimes to unmute and be heard and use their voice. That can be a little scary for some people, especially when we don't know everyone in the room, right? So that's an example of how we can remove a barrier and create an opportunity. All of these 21st century skills, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, all of that, we just weave that into what we're doing every day into our research-based activities and lessons, right? Sometimes we have to be a little bit more explicit with kids about the communication or the technology literacy, but there's opportunities that exist in what you're already doing to weave a lot of this in. And then the last one, I think speaking to Connie's point earlier, celebrating role models that look like the girls in your program, right? That's a big deal, is for them to be able to really connect. So here's a couple of examples. This was one of my last girl groups that I offered. You'll see they cracked me up because I talked to them about doing a field trip and they were like, oh, we're going to go to Disneyland. And I said, no, we're going somewhere better. And they're like, where are we going? Well, they had been working on a remodeling project, a beautification project. I said, we're going to Home Depot. And they said, what? I said, we're going to the garden section of Home Depot. And so someone had donated hats. So we thought, well, cool, this will be our little matching outfit for the day. We made an appointment with Home Depot. The girls had been working on a service learning project. And I said, what are you going to learn from Mickey Mouse? I don't know, have fun on rides. I guess I could weave in a lesson on physics, but the fact that I'm taking you to Home Depot, you're going to hear from someone who they know their stuff in the garden section. Those people are experts. I don't know if there's a Home Depot school, but whenever I go, they know. You'll be asking some random questions and the Home Depot staff will tell you and be able to help you. So they actually wanted to redo an area right outside of their classroom because it was a kind of a forgotten area. It actually had been, sadly, had been dedicated to 2 students who had died previously, but the area was forgotten. If you see it here on the left, that's what that area looked like. And I thought that's not a real good way to honor 2 kids who've passed. So then this was the after over on the right-hand side, but that included about 6 to 8 weeks of prep work of walking them through a whole service learning model. They had to present their proposal. So that helped them build their sense of self-esteem because they had to use their presentation skills. They had to design what they were going to do. And then when we went to Home Depot, we had to price things out. We had to figure out, well, how long is that recycled tire mulch going to work before it has to be replaced? What kind of liner? People, I didn't know how to do gardening, okay? Someone on here said they like plants. My kind of plants are like the fake ones that look really cute in the background, but that I can't kill. So I had to Google, how do I do this as someone who does not have a green thumb? And you can trust me, you can find anything on YouTube. So we figured it out. And I told the girls, it's a learning process for me as it is for you, my friends, because I'm not going to be the one doing the work. You're going to be doing the work, right? But this created a sense of of unity among these girls, the fact that we could weave in all sorts of different elements into different lessons and components. It wasn't just leadership, it was talking about science, understanding the soil, all of these different great tools that are at our disposal with what seems like one activity, but really there's really almost like 20 different things happening that can be broken down, right? And you're right, Danielle, a complete connection to STEAM, right? Exploring, designing, you can create together. That's all part of STEAM. There's other things we can do to engage girls. And sometimes maybe we weave in some simple, basic art stuff. This is an example of a vision board that one of my gals put together. I thought she wanted to join the Army because she put Army. She said, actually, it's Navy, but I couldn't find the words in the magazine, so I stuck Army, but it's really because I want to join the Navy. I said, well, whatever floats your boat, that'll work. But something simple, right? The fact that we can put on paper what we're trying to work towards. It's also knowing their name. I can't tell you how powerful it is to recognize people by name and to remember their name so that they feel seen. Oftentimes our girls of color will feel invisible and they feel like no one remembers me. I didn't stand out. Or you call her by someone else's name because you think, oh, she reminds me of this other girl. That's very offensive to say, I'm not her. I'm not her. You know, so taking the time to really get to know who they are and one or two interests so that you're building that connection is a great way to start to engage girls, especially girls of color, like I said, that oftentimes might feel invisible or not noticed, not called on in class. And then goal setting is one. So we're gonna do one because oftentimes we talk to students a lot about goal setting, but we don't talk to staff and we don't talk to adults about goal setting. So I'm always big on with the adults is we have to practice what we are asking of our young people. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have a blank paper, if you don't have a paper where you can actually trace your hand, don't worry, you could just use a Post-it, the back of a receipt, whatever is nearby that you can write on. But if you have a paper, what I'm inviting you to do is just trace your hand like a big Mickey Mouse glove so that you can have some fat fingers to write in. So once you do that, if you have a large paper, then I just want you to write down different goals for each finger. So five goals that you have. That could be short-term goals. It could be long-term, like I want to buy a house. It could be I want to run a marathon. I don't know. I see Melissa Mina. She's a runner. She's the runner on our team. Maybe she wants to run a marathon. I don't know. Maybe that's one of her goals. So take a minute or so. Again, if you don't have a large paper, don't worry about it. You could just use a Post-it. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to give you a minute or two. I'll play some little tunes. When the music stops, we'll come back together. Okay. So just, again, any goals that you can think of for yourself. What is something that you're wanting to achieve in the immediate future or long-term future? Totally up to you. Take about one more minute. All right, let's come on back. So I am going to invite you, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see each other. I'll put you in my grid, a little waffle format so I can see more of you. But I invite you to unmute or use the chat. But what's one or two goals that some of you came up with? What'd you put in those fingers of yours? Feel free to unmute, raise your hand, or you can use the chat. You've got plenty of options. What's one or two goals? Connie, go for it.
Okay. I'm not the best artist.
Beautiful.
But so my first one is complete my doctorate. I actually started it and it didn't feel right. So I'll go back probably with a different focus. Moved to Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 5 years and I absolutely just loved it. So that's my goal. My wife and I will be moving back to Hawaii, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Stay in touch, okay, Connie, because I like Hawaii too. So, you know, you're moving out there. You keep in touch with me, okay?
Yes, come visit. And then lastly, complete my trauma-informed yoga certification.
Very cool. So can we all unmute and do like a woohoo, Connie?
Yes,
Ready?
Connie.
Woo!
Connie, you can do it.
You got it.
Very cool. Very cool, Connie. You're well on your way. We wish you the best. Keep us posted, please, on that. That's awesome. Okay, anyone else? Unmute or you can use the chat.
I would like to share mine.
Norma, go for it.
So one of the fingers, it's, oh, let me show you my picture. So
There you are.
on it.
Perfect.
So the first one is pass my CSATs. As I mentioned before, I want to become a teacher, and it's been a long time, so I need to pass those tests.
So you will pass the CBEST, right?
Yes, I will.
Got it.
So the second one is to improve my program. I want to provide more opportunities for my students, leadership opportunities. I want to engage them in our community as well. I want to also create my own space to promote the importance of taking care of our environment. I want to finish remodeling my restroom, my bathroom. I haven't finished it. And the last one is to spend more quality time with my daughter and husband and travel more with them.
Very
so those
cool.
are my 5 things. Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, let's unmute and give her a big woohoo.
Woo!
Good job, Norma. It's gonna happen.
Oh, Norma.
Thanks for the
Thank
jazz
you.
hands, Very cool, Norma. The DIY projects are always fun, so you will be hanging out at Home Depot or Lowe's, I am sure. Very cool. Anyone else willing to unmute, take a risk, or you can use the chat box as well. You can share one finger, you can share 2 fingers, you can share 3. Another way to do this is you can have students say, okay, everyone, you can swap with someone if you think they might be a little too timid to share on their own. You might want to call out, what did you write on the pinky? Or what did you write on the thumb? There's other ways to do. The hand is just to do something where they can actually trace a hand. You could just do a list if you wanted to do it kind of the boring way. You could do that too. The hand just makes it a little bit fun. Anyone else? We'll take one more. Again, you can use the chat to write down your goals as well. Or if anybody wants to unmute, do we have any takers? Go once.
Retire and be healthy.
Lena, go ahead.
I said, I want to retire. One of my goals is to retire, but be healthy so that I can enjoy retirement.
Awesome. Let's unmute and give a woohoo to Lena.
Yes, Lena. Woo-hoo!
I will not sing woohoo when you retire because that's gonna be difficult to find someone to fill your shoes. But Danielle might be joining you. I'm seeing in the chat box, Danielle, you're on that 5-year plan too. So hopefully the senioritis doesn't kick in right now, and we have you for longer than that. I hope so. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing. Some of you are gonna, Mrs. Gayer, you're looking at focusing on your strengths and not weaknesses. That's a wonderful goal to have, right? So it could be something as simple as our own working on ourselves. It could be working on the bathroom. It could be the doctor. It could be anything. Sometimes we just don't take the time to ask people these things. I'm just curious, when was the last time somebody asked you, what are your goals? Or what are your professional goals? What are your personal goals? Sometimes we don't ask, and I'm always surprised that we don't do enough of that with our own adult colleagues and friends. And the reality is that the big kind of mic drop question is, so what are you doing today to get to one of those goals? And that's something that I always ask young people, because they'll say, well, I want to do this, and I want to be a scientist, or I want to graduate high school. And remember, I served a lot of students who were not doing so well academically or behaviorally. So when I would ask this, they'd have to really think about like, oh, shoot, what am I doing today? And if they're not doing something today, well, what can you be doing today to get a little bit closer, right? Just writing them down, that's the first step. But they need to become action items, right? That's when we convert them into a SMART goal. It's great to have them on a Post-it as a reminder, but if that Post-it sits there and collects dust, Norma's bathroom is never gonna get done, right? She's got to get on, has to have a plan for getting it done, right? For Connie, moving to Hawaii, we got to look at property. What island are we going to live? We have to actually put things into motion, right? If we want them to actually be able to come to fruition. Okay. So Danielle, I'm glad that you're sharing. You've been asked about your professional goals or program goals, but not necessarily what your personal goal, which is equally as important. I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes we only look at people in their professional role. Like we look at a student, we say, well, this is how the student is defined academically or behaviorally. We're not always looking at them as a whole person, and the adults are no different. And so what's happening personally that can help, because that's all connected to, they're a whole person. They're not just a professional. They're probably a dad or a mom or an auntie. There's more parts to them than just the one that maybe shows up at work, right? Okay, so we've got another game here. I'm gonna test your abilities here. The way that this will work is you're going to use the chat box. I'm going to show you a picture of a woman, and if you know who that woman is, you put her name in the chat box. Pretty easy, right? So we'll just do it again, just using the chat box. Hopefully you've got the chat box popped out so that you can see it. So here we go. As soon as you know it, put it in the chat. Who's this? All of you know, yep. Oh yeah. Queen Bee, yeah. That's Beyonce, in case you are living under a rock, right? That's Beyonce, right? Okay. Who's that? Who's that? Ariana Grande. Some of you are fast at typing. Okay, who's this? Who is that? Gal Gadot, AKA Wonder Woman. Yeah, one of my favorites. Who's that? Yeah, Lizzo. You know, when she came out with her flute, sales and flutes went up because she made it cool. When else had you seen someone doing hip hop and R&B with a flute? Those don't usually go hand in hand, right? But she changed that, right? So kind of a cool thing. Let's see if you know who this is.
Yeah.
Sotomayor.
Thank you, Norma. I saw Connie shaking her head. I didn't see it in the chat box. It slowed down a little bit. Who's this?
Winfrey, I forgot her name. Is it her? No? No!
So,
Oh, man!
Norma's getting all excited. Feel free to use the chat box. Yep, some of you got it. Maya Angelou, well-known poet, author, phenomenal woman, is one of her well-known poems. Who's this? Getting a little harder. So this is Elisa Carrillo. I learned of her probably about 6 months ago. I happened to be watching TV with my mom, and there was a special on her, and I'd never heard of her. But she's the first Mexican ballerina to win this, I hope I'm not mispronouncing it, Benoit de la Danse Prize, which is, when I Googled it, I went down a rabbit hole because I'd never heard of her. I was so intrigued by her. And they equivalent that to like the Wimbledon of dance, like the Nobel to dance. So like the one big like Heisman Trophy, that's, if you're in the ballerina and dance world, that's a very coveted prize. She's actually the lead ballerina with a German dance company. So it's the first time that a Mexican ballerina has had that lead and also has won that title. But again, we don't know of these people because she may not be as popular as Lizzo or Beyonce, right? What about this gal? Picture might look familiar. Like, what's her name? It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, Malala. So she became, she's an activist now, the youngest to win a Nobel Prize, but her story is, she's from Pakistan. The Taliban shot her because she was fighting for being able to just go to school. And the Taliban's not so down with women being educated. And so what did they do? They shot her. And so she suffered, you know, pretty massive brain wound, but survived, but there was complications from it. When I shared this story with my girls in court schools, I remember one of them said, hold up, this girl got shot just because she wanted to go to school? I said, yeah, because she wanted to be able to read and learn. And she said, and here we are, and we don't even want to come to school, but there's no threat of us getting shot here, like just because we want to come to school. I said, yeah, it's not the same for every girl around the world, right? So sometimes just introducing them to these ideas, saying she's a girl of color who got shot because she wanted to have the right to be able to learn. And we take it for granted here, right? So you can see a pattern sometimes with our young people. If you ask them, list five influential women, they will probably show you those pictures I showed you in the beginning. Cardi B, one of the Kardashians. That's who they're going to tend to think of. They're going to struggle when we think, what about a woman in STEAM? Oh, hold on. Let me ask my dear friend Google, right? Because they'll get stuck. It won't come as natural to them. I want it to come natural for them to say Malala's name, to say Michelle Obama. I want that to come just as natural, but sometimes you can't be what you can't see, right? This speaks full circle to what Connie said in the very beginning. How can you be something that you're not being exposed to on a regular basis? It's hard. It's hard. So we can't underestimate really the importance that the influence that we can have just by creating spaces for girls to see who they are. Using these beautiful posters, excuse me, I always just search for different images and different things related to girls because I've studied and researched them for quite some time now, but just having them have, it's beautiful artwork. The artwork, if you trace the artwork, if you go to the website, I have it linked. There's a bunch of them. I just picked a few to be able to show you. But the artist behind it is also female, and they'll on the website it'll just give you a little bit of a background of kind of who that artist is. So I really like that. I thought, oh, I love the type of art that they chose. I love that it's all these different women, ages, ethnicities, and then I love that they also highlighted the artist behind it. They didn't ignore the fact that there's an artist behind all of these beautiful images. So you can download them all for free. They have the title of the woman, kind of what she does, and then just a brief little short bio. So something as simple as just creating these where people on campus see them, maybe in your programs, creating a slideshow of them. If they're having to do an activity that's related to like chemistry, like Norma was mentioning, her daughter likes chemistry. Well, maybe you find pictures that show a chemist in action, right? So yes, I can do the chat, the link in the chat. Let me go to my other PowerPoint and I'll copy and paste for you. Thank you for that, Connie. That's the link to these. And then there's also, I think If Then is also presenting, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I saw them on the roster of presenters, but they also offer some to you as well. So I'll put these links and then I'll show you what they have. Really cool things that are available at no cost that might just be kind of a beginning step for some of us thinking, well, we have limited programming. Well, why can't I just start here? What if I had the picture removed, but then the girls could put a picture of themselves? What would that do? To say, oh, wow, if I want to be a scientist like Dr. Ray Wynn Grant over on the left, then maybe I put an actual student's picture in that, of them actually working in one of the projects that we're doing at our school site. And then you take it to a whole nother level with them, right? There's all sorts of ways. You can You can do this through books. You can do coloring books, reading books. That's the picture over on the right. It could be the picture on the left, which just shows just different women. And I always, again, I encourage folks to say, well, take it that step further. What is it going to say if it had their picture, right? What would that say? They fill in the blank. Not a statistic, not society. It's like you fill in the blank for yourself. What would it say? If you just had the ability to be free and dream, what would that look like? Okay. Other activities you can think of, anything can turn into engagement. When my students thought we were just going to do Twister, I always found ways to make it educational, because I didn't want a school person saying, what, they're out there playing Twister. Oh, no, there's math, there's yoga. I can build in all sorts of content themes into this. Communication. So I would tell them, oh, you're going to have to do this without talking. Oh, you're going to have to do this, with, one hand behind your back. So there's all sorts of different ways to change up a traditional activity that may look like it's just for fun, but you can weave in all sorts of different ways to make things engaging and weave in those elements of STEAM. I did a ropes course with students. That's actually me in the picture on the right. You see me climbing. Now when I look at that, I think, oh my gosh, I'm not a daredevil like some of you might be. So this was a mental and physical challenge for myself. But what was interesting about this is every time I took a group of girls, none of them started off thinking, I'm just going to be able to do this. They would see that the wall, especially on the left-hand side, it's a pretty high wall. When you're looking at it, you think, I got to climb that, and everyone's, connected, you have a harness, but it's a little bit daunting. And I had some girls all over the spectrum, some that were like, I'm going to nail it. Some that weren't even willing to try. I mean, literally, I had a couple that were like, I already know I'm going to fail. So it told me where they were at. And there's no judgment if you didn't want to tackle it. The first time I did it, I only got halfway on that wall. I kind of froze halfway, and I thought, yeah, this is good. This is good for me. So I also share my story where I tell my students, I didn't make it to the very top the first time around because it scared me. I had never done rock climbing like that. That's just not something that I've ever done. So when you see me over on the right, that was particularly scary. I felt like there was an old show called Fear Factor. Some of you may not remember that, but it was basically you just do all these very scary stunts. Well, the reason why I was climbing, one, I would have done it because we were out there, but I climbed because the girl said, well, if you go, we'll go. And I thought, oh man, now I don't have a choice. I have to do it now. So I thought, oh yeah, I got this, no worries. Mind over matter. Inside, I was thinking, oh Dios mío, oh my, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And so you're supposed to get to the very top of that post, and then turn around. And I don't know if you can see at the very top of the picture, there's a trapeze bar that's 6 feet away. So you're supposed to climb to the top of the post, turn yourself around, and then leap off and catch that trapeze bar. And let me tell you that, and I don't even know how I did it, but I did it. So I come down and I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, now I proved myself to them. They're going to get up there. I told my girls group, okay, well, I did it. I took one for the team. And I said, you all ready to go? Oh, hell no, Miss Betty. I said, no, that would look so scary. And I'm thinking, I just put myself literally on a limb for you. I had a few that tried it. There were tears. Every word in the book you can think of was said at the top of that post, but they did it. And I remember for a lot of them was, if I can do this, shoot, I can conquer my own fear, right? I sometimes get in my own way. I can move past it. So the reality is there's lots of different activities, but it's how do you engage them and make them fun where they don't even know they're learning, right? The STEAM is everywhere. I'm not a science teacher by training, but clearly the activities that we all do, there's simple ways to engage students so don't worry so much about, you think, oh, I don't know these NGSS standards. Focus on the engagement piece, on how do I hook them so that they want to continue to come back day after day after day. So anything can be engaging is whether or not you make it fun. Look at these little kids' faces. They look like they're having a ball, right? And they're learning, they're engaged, they're having a good time. They feel safe to learn. And for a lot of our girls of color, sometimes that's where we have to start, is how do I engage them, build a positive relationship so they feel a sense of belonging and safety that then will allow them to learn, right? You can't get to that place if they don't have the basic needs being met first. So we're running low on time. I do want to give you my my email address. That's here. I'll share the slide deck. I just was waiting to do the presentation, and then I'll upload it to this. I think it's through Sketch, the platform. But we do have a session evaluation, so I'm going to put that link in the chat box for you. But I want to, in the last 3 minutes that we have, I want to invite you all to either use the chat box or unmute and share, but just one word for the last 50 minutes or 47 minutes so far. But what's one word that represents the session for you today? So, oh, thanks, Lena. I forgot a number. I'll correct my slide. Thank you. So go ahead and unmute or use the chat box. And feel free to use a word. Thank you, Callie. Thank you, Allison. Again, you can unmute and use the chat box, but I'd love to hear one word that represents. So Ricardo, thank you. Motivating. I've corrected the phone number there so you can see it. Sheila, you're excited. Connie, I appreciate it that you felt it was meaningful. Engage. You're ready to start now, Danielle. Maybe we'll pull you out of retirement in 5 years. Keep you working with our girls. Purposeful, some new ideas. Thank you, Miss Sheila. I appreciate the feedback. So it's simple, folks. Sometimes we complicate things. I know it can get difficult with everything happening, especially during COVID, but just focus on how do I just continue to see them? How do I see them and acknowledge them, and then work in those STEAM elements into what I'm doing. Start with the connection piece first, and the rest will come. So we have 2 minutes together. Does anyone want to unmute or share? I know in the chat, I saw it going earlier. Some of you were sharing some recommendations and comments, but is there any ideas of what's working well in your area that you want to share? We do have about a minute still together, so I'd love to open up this space. Anything that's worked well for you or that you're wanting to give a try moving forward? Feel free to unmute.
I'll go. I don't know if you can solve it in 1 minute, but I am looking for ways to incorporate more imagery and language, based on their generation, right? Because I mean, we need to speak their language, talk their talk, of course, having some scientific methods in there, but it's an uphill battle.
Absolutely. So I can't think of something, when you're saying language, you're looking at the development of language skills, like some critical thinking skills.
And just the language that they're using, they use a lot of contemporary language, and we're using a lot of scientific language and jargon, and there can be some cultural barriers. And I'm seeing it a lot with, especially our girls. I know one thing that I've incorporated a lot with STEAM is getting girls on video games. And that has been, I am just so surprised how many girls have gravitated toward that, where they would say they are not into video games. So those types of things, introducing them to just a whole new niche. And
things that are, like you're saying, Sheila, that are relevant to them. Right, that definitely speak their language. So I can definitely follow up with you for some resources. If there's anyone here that has something, we'd love to be able to share. Connie, do you have something that we could maybe pass along?
Yeah, Ms. Sheila, really, my youngest child is going to be 13, and I was adamant about exposing her to STEAM early on. So literally since she's been 2 years old, I've been buying her chemistry sets, doing different projects at home, and exposing, not just because like you said, they're using a different language than we're used to using in STEAM scientific language, but not just incorporating their language, but infusing them and getting them familiar with scientific language early on, so that when they hear it, they know what's going on and how to process that information.
Thank you, Connie. I did put the link again in the chat box. You do have you'll have it in the section. I'll put my email one more time in the chat box. We're now 2 minutes over, but I just want to thank you all. I know the time goes by so fast. Thank you, Daniela, for your comment. Being with all of you, is what keeps me motivated in times when it's been difficult, but I have a heart for expanded learning. And so I have a heart for all of you. And I appreciate the fact that you took time out of your day to participate in the STEAM conference and the workshop. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Now we're friends because I know a little bit about you. I know what kind of foods you all like. And you know that if you want to treat me to sushi, I'll never say no. So please keep in touch with me if there's resources you have, or that if however I can help link you to a particular resource. Please stay connected. I'd love to be able to always grow my network as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and close because we're over. I think now you've got to run to a different session. So I appreciate all of you. You take good care. And then again, I'll put the PowerPoint in the platform they're using for the conference. Okay. Thanks, everyone.